Your grandfather worked harder, had less, and died younger than you will. Yet studies show he was significantly happier. Ancient Eastern philosophers knew exactly why this would happen. They saw the trap we were building, and they warned us centuries ago. In the next few minutes, I'll reveal the 4 forgotten principles that made life simpler, and why ignoring them has created the most miserable generation in history, starting with the one choice that changed everything. Part 1. The Paradox of Choice. Picture your grandfather at 22 choosing his life's work. The factory, the farm, or learn his father's trade. 3 doors. That's it. By lunch, he'd chosen. By dinner, he'd started. No LinkedIn alerts about 10,000 other possibilities. No anxiety about optimization. Just a choice, made and lived. Now picture yourself scrolling through Indeed at 2 a.m. Page 47 of search results. Another 100 tabs open. That suffocating feeling, it has a name. Psychologist Barry Schwartz discovered something disturbing. When researchers set up a jam tasting booth, they tested 2 scenarios. One table with 24 varieties, another with just 6. The table with more choices attracted more browsers. But here's the gut punch. The table with fewer options sold 10 times more jam. 10 times. Your brain literally shuts down when faced with too many options. But ancient Taoist philosophers knew this 2,500 years ago. They called it Wu Wei, often mistranslated as doing nothing, but it really means effortless action, moving with life's current instead of analyzing every possible stream. Lao Tzu wrote, "The sage does not attempt anything very big and thus achieves greatness." Your grandfather embodied Wu Wei without knowing it, not because he was wiser, because his world forced it. 3 job options, 1 grocery store, 2 channels on TV. His choices were boundaries that created freedom. You're drowning in infinity. 300 career paths on Reddit, 77 coffee variations at Starbucks, dating apps showing you thousands of better options while you're on a first date. Every choice carries the weight of 10,000 rejected alternatives. Studies show that people with fewer choices report higher satisfaction with their decisions, not just initially, but years later. Your grandfather never wondered if he should have been a UX designer or cryptocurrency trader. Those ghosts didn't exist to haunt him. The modern world broke an ancient equation. Happiness equals reality minus expectations. When you have infinite options, your expectations become infinite too. Every choice feels like settling. Here's what we miss. Wu Wei isn't about having fewer options. It's about recognizing when you have enough information to act. Your grandfather didn't have perfect information. He had sufficient information. And that gap between sufficient and perfect, that's where life happens. Think about the last major decision you made. How many hours did you spend researching, comparing, analyzing? Your grandfather would have already been 3 months into doing the thing while you were still opening spreadsheets. The paradox cuts deeper. We believe more choice equals more freedom. But what if the opposite is true? What if endless options are a prison where the bars are made of possibility? When everything is possible, nothing feels sufficient. When you can become anything, being something feels like failure. But choice overload is just the surface. There's something deeper happening to our minds. Part 2. The Comparison Trap. Your grandfather knew exactly who he was measuring himself against. Tom from 2 streets over who got promoted to floor manager. His brother-in-law with the slightly newer Ford, maybe 150 people total. And here's the crucial part. He saw their struggles too. Tom's bad back, the brother-in-law's sleepless nights with colicky twins. You're comparing your regular Tuesday to 2 billion people's highlight reels. The Buddhist masters had a word for the opposite of envy, mudita, sympathetic joy, the ability to feel genuine happiness for others' success. They considered it one of the 4 sublime states of mind. But here's what they knew that we forgot. Mudita only works when you see the full picture of someone's life. Your grandfather felt mudita naturally. When his neighbor bought a new tractor, he saw the 7 years of saving, the borrowed money, the calloused hands. Success had context. Success had sweat. Now, you see a 19-year-old making millions dancing on TikTok. No context, no struggle, just the result, stripped of its story. Your brain can't compute mudita for that. It computes rage. Social media didn't just change how we communicate. It rewired our comparison circuitry. Scientists found that seeing others' success on social platforms activates the same brain regions as physical pain. Let that sink in. Scrolling through achievements literally hurts. The numbers are staggering. Your grandfather compared himself to maybe 150 people who lived within walking distance. You're unconsciously measuring yourself against 2 billion online profiles. That's not a fair fight. That's not even the same species of comparison. Worse, you're not even comparing to real people anymore. You're comparing to curated avatars, filtered, edited, optimized. It's like measuring your raw morning face against a Photoshop billboard and wondering why you feel inadequate. Confucius understood something profound about this. He said, "The man who moves a mountain begins by carrying away small stones." But social media shows you only the moved mountains, never the small stones, never the 1,000 days of carrying. The comparison trap goes deeper than jealousy. It's rewiring what we think normal is. When everyone posts their peaks, peaks become the expected baseline. Your grandfather's good day was a cold beer after honest work. Your good day has to compete with someone's Bali retreat and startup exit. Here's the darkest part. Even knowing this doesn't fix it. Your rational mind understands that Instagram isn't reality, but your emotional brain, the part that evolved to track social hierarchy in tribes of 150, it can't tell the difference. It sees higher status and floods you with cortisol, with inadequacy, with the primal fear of being left behind by the tribe. Buddhist monks spent lifetimes cultivating mudita in controlled environments. They weren't trying to feel joy for strangers while doom scrolling at midnight. They understood that comparison without connection is poison. Your grandfather's comparisons were complete stories. Beginning, middle, end, struggle, work, reward. Yours are screenshots, moments without meaning, success without sacrifice. The trap isn't that we compare, humans always have. The trap is that we're comparing to ghosts, to illusions, to the greatest hits of 2 billion people playing on repeat in our pockets. Yet even if you deleted social media tomorrow, you'd still be unhappy because of what we've lost. Part 3. The Death of Deep Roots. Your grandfather had a best friend for 47 years. Same guy, same bad jokes at the same diner every Saturday. They buried their parents together, raised their kids together. When one needed a hand building a shed, the other showed up. No questions, no Venmo requests. You have 1,847 Facebook friends and feel lonely at your own birthday party. The Japanese have a concept, ikigai, often mistranslated as life purpose by Western self-help gurus. But in Okinawa, where people live longest, ikigai isn't some solo journey of self-discovery. It's woven into community fabric. Your reason for being is inseparable from your place in the group. Your grandfather's ikigai wasn't a mission statement. It was knowing that 6 families counted on his carpentry, that his poker buddies expected him every Thursday, that his roots ran so deep, pulling them up would disturb the whole garden. Your potted plant, portable, efficient. Just add water and Wi-Fi. We call it freedom, this ability to reinvent ourselves in new cities every few years. But freedom from roots is also freedom from belonging. Your grandfather couldn't ghost his problems, couldn't swipe left on his community. He had to work things out because where else would he go? The Chinese understood this through guanxi, relationships with reciprocal obligation built over decades. Not networking, not LinkedIn connections. Real debt and credit of favors, presence, shared history, bonds that thicken with time like tree rings. Modern life broke the equation. We traded depth for breadth. Instead of 5 ride-or-die friendships, we maintained 50 surface-level acquaintances. Instead of knowing every family on our street, we don't know who lives next door. Your grandfather's loneliness was situational. Maybe his friend was sick or traveling. Your loneliness is architectural, built into a system where community is optional and roots are inconvenient. Studies show that loneliness activates the same pain regions as physical injury. We're not meant to be alone, but more devastating, we're not meant to be interchangeable. When everyone's replaceable, no one's essential. When you can leave anytime, why stay through the hard parts? The average American moves 11 times in their lifetime. Your grandfather probably moved twice. Each move promises fresh starts, but delivers shallow soil. You can't grow deep roots in a pot you're planning to leave. Here's what haunts me. We've created a world where stability is seen as stagnation, where staying put means giving up. Your grandfather's 40-year friendship isn't inspiring anymore. It's suspicious. What's wrong with him that he never upgraded? But trees don't grow tall by being transplanted. They grow tall by digging deep. Your grandfather was happier not because life was simpler, but because he was essential to a specific somewhere. He couldn't be replaced by a gig worker or a new hire. His absence would be felt. His presence mattered. But the final piece explains why even successful people feel empty. Part 4. The Meaning Crisis. A carpenter in 1950 could drive through his town and point, "I built that porch, fixed that roof, 3 generations living in that house I framed." His work had addresses. His labor had last names. You optimized conversion rates by 3.2%. You'll never meet the people who clicked. Viktor Frankl survived the concentration camps by discovering something profound. Humans can endure any suffering if it has meaning. But here's what he also warned. Ever more people have the means to live, but no meaning to live for. Your grandfather never read Frankl. He didn't need to. His meaning wasn't philosophical, it was physical, tangible. That barn standing against storms, those chairs holding families at dinner, work that outlived the working day. The Japanese have a word, shokunin, describing craftsmen who dedicate their lives to perfecting one skill. Not for fame, not for Instagram, for the work itself. The sushi master who trained for 10 years just to cook rice properly. The sword maker whose signature won't be seen for centuries. Modern culture spits on shokunin. Why master one thing when you could pivot? Why perfect a craft when you could scale? Your grandfather was accidentally shokunin, not by choice, but by circumstance. One trade, one town, one life, mastery through repetition. You change jobs every 2.3 years, chasing growth that feels like running in place. Here's the gut punch. We replaced craftsmanship with metrics, purpose with productivity. Your grandfather's success was measured in things that lasted. Yours is measured in things that vanish. Quarterly reports, sprint reviews, engagement rates. Numbers that reset every Monday like nothing you did last week mattered. Lao Tzu saw this coming. He who knows that enough is enough will always have enough. But we built an economy where enough is never enough, where contentment is complacency, where staying in one job too long makes you obsolete, not expert. The meaning crisis isn't that work has no purpose. It's that the purpose evaporates too quickly. Your grandfather's rocking chair is still rocking. Your PowerPoint deck was deleted in the last reorg. Think about this. A management consultant who optimized 1,000 companies versus a carpenter who built 1,000 homes. Both worked hard, both made money. But in 50 years, only one's work is still standing. Only one's grandchildren can touch what Grandpa made. We traded permanence for progress, legacy for agility, the satisfaction of completion for the anxiety of constant iteration. Your grandfather finished things. You manage ongoing processes that never end. The shokunin spirit says, do one thing deeply enough to find God in the grain of wood. Modern work says, do many things shallow enough to never find yourself in any of them. Here's what breaks my heart. You probably have more skills than your grandfather, more education, more tools, more potential. But potential without form is just emptiness wearing a suit. Your grandfather's meaning wasn't complex. Build good houses, raise decent kids, leave things better than you found them. Simple enough to achieve, clear enough to measure, real enough to touch. Here's what nobody tells you. Your grandfather wasn't happier because life was simpler. He was happier because his limitations created clarity. The 4 pieces finally snapped together. Too many choices paralyzed decision. Endless comparisons poisoned contentment. Shallow roots prevented belonging. Work without permanence drained meaning. But together, they reveal something the ancient Chinese philosophers called Zhizu, knowing when you have enough. Your grandfather had Zhizu forced upon him by circumstance. 3 job choices, enough to pick. 150 neighbors, enough to compare. 1 community, enough to belong. Tangible work, enough to matter. The word enough has become dirty in our vocabulary. It sounds like settling, like giving up. But Zhizu isn't about accepting less. It's about recognizing when more becomes the enemy of better. Here's the profound realization. Every generation before us had their enough defined by external limits. We're the first generation that must choose our own boundaries, and that freedom is killing us. But you can't go backward. You can't uninvent the internet, unlearn your options, unsee the possibilities. Your grandfather's happiness isn't available at that address anymore. So here's what you do instead. You create artificial limits in an unlimited world. You choose 1 coffee shop instead of optimizing across 7. You pick the good enough apartment and make it home instead of scrolling forever. You realize that infinite choice is not freedom. It's paralysis dressed up as possibility. You curate your comparisons. Unfollow the highlight reels. Follow the process. Your grandfather couldn't choose his comparison group, but you can. Compare to who you were last year, not who someone pretends to be online. You plant yourself somewhere, not forever, but long enough for roots to matter. Stay in the job past the 2-year itch. Let friendships become inconvenient. Build things that can't be packed in boxes. You create things that last. In a world of vanishing digital work, make something physical. Cook meals, build furniture, grow gardens, write letters, leave evidence you were here. The ancient wisdom wasn't wrong. We just forgot how to apply it. Wu Wei, in a world of infinite choice, means choosing not to choose everything. Mudita, in a comparison economy, means celebrating real humans, not avatars. Ikigai, in a rootless society, means becoming essential to a chosen few. Shokunin, in a pivot culture, means going deep while others go wide. Here's the plot twist that changes everything. Your grandfather's happiness wasn't despite his limitations. It was because of them. And you? You're not unhappy because you have too little. You're unhappy because you have too much. Too many options, too many comparisons, too many places to be, too many things to become. The path forward isn't more. It's not less. It's enough. Draw your own borders in a borderless world. Create your own constraints in a constraintless life. Choose your enough before endless choices choose your misery. Your grandfather was accidentally wise. You'll have to be wise on purpose. The question isn't why your grandfather was happier than you. The question is, now that you know, what will you do differently? Because knowing is just the first stone. The mountain only moves when you start carrying.